What's up, fam? Welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. So today we're going to be talking to a brother of mine that is into music, technology, and marketing. All those wonderful things. I know he's got a lot to share about his experiences and his path so far. And so, my brother Nate, man, welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. Appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you have a pretty interesting background. Like I was reading a little bit about you. You came to Atlanta a few years back to pursue a music career, right? As a producer slash musician. Um, and then
Yeah.
it kind of evolved into something else. But anyway, share a little about how you ended up coming down to Atlanta. And,
Yeah. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and born and raised there. And I have a lineage of people who went to Morehouse College. So my grandfather, one of my cousins, maybe a couple cousins, my brother, they all went to Morehouse College. So my brother, I think it was my 16th birthday, he paid for a trip down here so I could come check it out. And it was the school I ended up choosing. So I went to Morehouse from '09 to 2013. And after I graduated school, I went back home for like a year. And there was one really bad snowstorm. It was a bad winter, first of all. It was just
Mhm.
terrible, terrible winter. And I remember thinking, like, I will not be here this time next year. So I got out of Pittsburgh and moved down to Atlanta full time. So I had at that point I was not working music full time. I was actually at a State Farm office in Pittsburgh, and I was trying to talk to my boss. I was seeing if he could still give me some work while I was in Atlanta. Just wasn't going to work out. So I decided, well, now is the time. If there was a time, it was going to be right then that I was going to try to do music full time. So I'd been making beats since I was like 14. I
Okay.
didn't have any musical training before that, and I just was really adamant about practicing, and I just like to do it. Like you didn't have to tell me to go do that, so I just like doing it a lot, and I got pretty good. And I'd upload my beats online. This was back in the days of SoundClick. If there's any musicians
Oh,
out there, or
sound
beat
click.
makers,
Okay.
SoundClick. This is old school. So
That's so cool.
yeah, I would upload all my beats, and people started to buy them. And then as I went through college, I kept making beats, kept making a bunch of beats. At one point, I was making enough to pay my rent and bills off of just the beat sales. And then,
Wow, that's pretty
uh,
impressive.
yeah, so as a college student, I knew I had a marketing mind a little bit. It wasn't like nearly what it is today, but I was able to like push my product and get it out there. And then post um, post school, after I graduated, I interned as an engineer in a couple different places. Engine Room Audio in New York. Not sure if they're even still open. Um, and then there was a jazz studio in Pittsburgh I interned at for engineering, just to learn how to like listen for fine tuning in
Mhm.
music. And after that, was when I was working at the State Farm office, but I was still doing the music whenever I got off work at 5. I still did it probably for another 4 or 5 hours after I got off of work. I'd go do my second job, which is what I wanted to do, was make music or just something in the music industry. So when I came down to Atlanta, I did not have a job. I did not. I didn't really know exactly how it was going to work out, but I knew that I did not want to go get a job personally. It was
Yeah.
either this works out or nothing. I didn't want to do anything else necessarily. So that was it. So I locked myself in a room for uh, locked myself in a room. I was in my room a lot, obviously trying to figure stuff out for like 3 years. And then, slowly but surely, as I was building my business, people started to ask, "Hey, do you market other people too?" Because I was building an email list. I took uh, 2 online courses and they cost maybe a total of $200 together. And I
Hmm.
learned more in those 2 online courses than I did in 4 years of school. And because they were made by entrepreneurs and taught by entrepreneurs. So
Were they marketing classes or?
it was, yeah, they were more along the lines of marketing. It
Okay.
was like business structure and marketing. So
Okay.
one was just like this beat maker, and he made a course, and then another was it was a musician, but he also had some other online businesses. This is like 2014, 2015.
Hmm.
So this is when, online ads were like really first being introduced. You had Google ads, you had some like pay-per-click ads, but you didn't really have social media ads then. This was like just the beginning of all that. And I took those courses and really took it seriously. I went through the whole course in like 2 days. Both of them, like both of those courses, I went through them start to finish, watched every video start to finish. Actually put the lessons into action. Tinkering with stuff and working it out. And from that, I was building an email list because that was one of the things they were saying to do. I built my email list, and I was selling my beats and all this stuff. And I was working on SEO, getting more traffic to my website. So people were asking, "Hey, do you do marketing?" And I didn't at the time, but eventually I said, yes, I do marketing. And that's where it started. So it was figuring out, not only it was marketing myself and my beats, but then it was marketing other artists, and eventually that took over the operations and became what it is today, where we're just I haven't made a song in like 4 years, probably
What?
probably longer than that, but just do the marketing. It's actually, oddly enough, today I was looking back at some music I was making in catalogs, and a lot of it's honestly just sitting there. So I was just gonna upload it and just have it be on a bunch of different playlists on Spotify and whatnot. But yeah, that's how it became what it is today. So it's more of a music marketing agency. We do a lot of stuff in tech too, as you were saying, with Web3. So tokens and NFTs and that stuff. And then also we have done a little bit of marketing other businesses, so outside of music, but I have not jumped into that. I don't have like a full-time operation for that. We have a full-time operation for music marketing, but not necessarily like marketing a barbershop or something else like that.
Oh, that's cool, man. So what did you major in college? What was your major?
I majored in economics.
Economics. Okay, so that's kind of
It wasn't all that close.
not close enough, right?
Uh, yeah, it wasn't. There's one course in college. I'm not. I'll say this. I'm not anti-college. I am anti going to college for no reason, just because everybody else says that's what you should do.
Yeah,
If I had been presented a different path whenever I was 16, 17, that was clearly the path I should have taken. I should not have gone to college. I should have been taught by other entrepreneurs, and more of this is happening now, but
yeah, yeah,
that was a path that would have benefited me the most. There was
yeah,
one class in college that really impacted me to today, and it was critical thinking, and that was only because the teacher was actually he was a good critical thinker. I had other philosophy classes, and I'm not trying to be harsh or whatever. I'm just trying to be honest.
yeah, yeah. I hear you.
I
I hear
I
you.
had other philosophy classes where it really did not make that big of an impact on me, and uh, I'll just put it like there was one teacher who it was a good benefit to me to take his critical thinking class. Other than that, I my college courses they just weren't for me. It wasn't that I did poorly in them
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all. It was just wasn't for me.
yeah. It's kind of fascinating because, and I think it's a generational thing. I know, I'm a little older than you, but I know, and your parents probably, since your parents and I think your grandfather, you said, owned Morehouse.
So my
Morehouse.
grandfather did, and
Yeah,
then my brother and some cousins.
yeah. And so, I think back in the day, the road to success was to get an education, right? So we all our parents kind of pushed us to kind of go to college because that was at the time how you could potentially be successful, right? I mean, it's not guaranteed, but overall, if you went to college, you tended to be somewhat successful, right? And a lot of times it was not so much what your passions were, right? It was just more about what how can I make money and how can I advance, and it may not necessarily be in something that I really like doing. I'm just making good money. You know what I mean? And so I think from our generation, it was pushed that way. I think, but in your generation and even in the younger generation, I think the mindset is, college is not necessarily the end all. And, unless you're doing something specialized and you have a,
Right.
specialized skill, becoming a doctor or an
Right.
engineer and so forth. But I mean, yeah, go to college for history or English, unless you're going to be a writer. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like it's a waste of time, and that's a lot. And these days, that's a waste of a lot of money.
Yeah.
College ain't cheap, man, for
Yep.
sure. So when did you? So you said you started, writing, making beats about 14. So, and it's kind of interesting that you were doing that, throughout, I guess, high school and in college, and you were making money off of it. So that's. So when did you make it? When was the time when you realized, hey, this could be a career for me? And I don't want to call it a career because it's not like you're working. You're basically having your own business. But when did you think that this could really go beyond than what I've been doing in the past as far as music?
Um, I'll say I'll say it was when I went out, like, pretty much on my own. I knew, well, in high school, um, a lot of money to me was like, make paying for rent, or I'm in college paying for rent, or in high school if I made like $1,000 that month, or maybe sometimes it might have been a couple grand. But obviously, I just blew that money in high school. I'll say I after I quit State Farm and was like by myself
Hmm.
doing it. So whenever it was my sole source of income, and I was, I moved away from home. I moved to Atlanta full time from Pittsburgh. Um, I'll say then it's hard to say. I don't know the exact moment.
Yeah.
Um, I do remember, like, it came out with an ebook, and the ebook was, I was trying out these different sales funnels from the courses I learned. Um, and so I think it was the first non-music product I was trying to sell. I might have sold the ebook before the promotion, not sure. But like, after I put out the email, people actually started to buy copies of the ebook. And then is like one of the earliest memories I had of, oh, I can actually like do all these marketing steps, and somebody will want to buy a product that I've come out with. And then the other moment would be like when I told you before, people started to ask me if I marketed other artists. I think that
Mhm.
was a major validation of, all right, yes, I'm doing the right steps. I'm
Yeah.
marketing my own products in a good way, a good enough way that other people are asking, hey, can you market me? So those would be the moments for me that I recognize, yes, this can be, a full-time business. Um, and then I also figured out that I was pretty good at crafting copywriting that would get people to actually pay attention. So headlines, um, different descriptions that people will want to click on in order to come to my website or whatever,
Hmm.
message I'm putting out there. So it was a combination. I don't think there was one single moment,
Yeah.
but it was a combination of things.
That's cool. Yeah, because as you explaining that, you're definitely an entrepreneur. Because I know a lot of times for musicians, and I'm a musician myself, we many of us tend to focus on the art of performing or the art of writing. Just that the side of the creative side of music. but a lot of times we don't really put hardly any effort into the marketing side and how to publish the business side of music. Basically speaking, it's easy to create. It's not so easy to market. It's not so easy to get the word out, and so we tend to falter in those areas because we don't have the necessary skills sometimes to be able to push our music beyond just the typical put it on your website and or posting on YouTube. And the whole music industry has kind of changed so drastically from the days before where your record companies pretty much handled all of that stuff. They would you get on go in the studio, they'll give you some monies to go into studio. You produce your project and then they promote it and you kind of sit back and then they tell you what to do. Oh, you go on tour now to promote it. But a lot of those, most people don't have that access. I mean, it's still being done for some of the major artists, but for most people that are musicians and artists right now, really they all they have is themselves. But I guess the good news is that you don't need the record companies anymore if you do it right. So, what would you recommend? An aspiring artist right now that's trying to, they have, they've gotten some material together, they got a project out, or working on a project. What would be some of your recommendations or steps as far as thinking about the business side of things, and some of the things that you guys do as far as helping to get the word out on their projects? What do you think would be some good steps for them to take, or even consider as they're creating their project?
Yeah, first thing would be have your LLC, have your business structure. Um, if you're serious about it, have your LLC. If you don't know if you want to do it yet, it's fine to just put the music out and whatnot. But if you know you're serious, get your LLC started. Go Google um, how to get an LLC wherever you're at, and an LLC is just limited liability company, just meaning that you're going to separate your business assets from your personal assets. So if somebody would try to sue you or something like that, they can only take the liability on the business rather than liability on your personal life.
Mhm.
And what it's going to do is get your mind to start thinking a little bit differently about how business is structured. This is a very basic step too. Next, I'd say figure out figure out what your sound is to your audience. Um, a lot of times these days, people may try to go like halfway on the quality of the music, because it's so easy to put out,
Mhm.
and there has to be a certain caliber of quality in order for you to get the streams that you want to get. So you may really like to make music, but if you don't know how to make a quality sound, both engineering and production, it's not going to get repeated on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music or wherever you're trying to stream it. It's People are still people. Like if you like a song, you're just going to repeat it. Like that makes a big deal on bringing in revenue for your music business. Just little things like that.
Mhm.
So it's shifting your mind to not only just think about the art aspect of it, because that's the quality side, but when you start to make better music, you also see how that affects your bottom line, and they go together. I know a lot of times artists will they kind of want to stay away from the business side of things or marketing side of things, but they really have to work together in order for a music career to succeed. So those would be the things I'd say, like simple things. I'm not going to go into like heavy marketing details, because if you don't have the good music in the first place and it's not like quality engineered well, then it doesn't matter how many marketing dollars we throw behind it. It's just not going to happen. So the first things first, put the cart horse, get them in
Yeah.
the right order. Make sure your music is really, really good. Um, that if somebody off the street, heard your music, or somebody on the internet or whatever, and you weren't in front of them, what would they say about it? Get some honest feedback. If there's a way for you to go actually do that experiment, I think that's a good experiment. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's my initial advice. Make sure the music is really, really good, because it makes that one step makes the marketing so much easier. Like, we've run thousands of ads, gotten tens of thousands of playlist placements. There's only so much we're gonna do if a song is just okay. Like, if
yeah,
a song is
true.
really, really good, then you're gonna get 10 times the results or 50 times the results, because people are just gonna keep replaying that song. Like, I heard a song today. It's by an artist that we've been working with for a while, but the dude is really, really good. So I probably played a song like 10 times today, just on repeat, just because I that was what I wanted to hear. Um, there's been other songs, especially if it's like a chill song, or like a work song,
Hmm.
you just play in the background of work or studying or whatever. Might have played them like 50 times or 100 times, or just have it on repeat, and that helps out your streams and your money, and getting sync licensing placements and all that from musicians. So make sure your music is really, really good, and then we'll talk about marketing. So I know everybody wants the marketing step first, but let's get that first step, right before we go into all of the nitty gritty marketing details.
Yeah, yeah, you're right about that. I mean, because you go on YouTube and some of these other places, and you listen to some of this music, like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, it might just be okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's like nothing really fascinating. But then I've also heard like really, really, really good music. So yeah, I definitely can relate to that. Um, and so let's shift gears a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about passion and purpose. Um, I think the cool thing about what you're doing, and how you kind of fell into it. I wouldn't say you fell into it, because I think you made some decisions as far as, and you got feedback on how they kind of help guide you to where you are today. But I would say, as far as purpose and I guess passion, would you say that you knew what your purpose and passion was early on, or is that something that has kind of come about, or even as it's developing as we speak today?
No, it's I'm definitely in my zone. I think I'm still uh in a way I'm still finding it. So I'll explain it like this. I don't ever like think, "Oh, I have to go to work today." That just doesn't cross my mind. It really doesn't ever. You don't have to tell me to go into work. Um it's not a drag. There may be in like a system that I can improve at work, but it's never like, oh, I have to go in. So in that sense of the word, yes, I am in the zone. The In another sense of, is this all you would want to do ever in your life? No, I would want to keep growing. Like, I would want to keep expanding. For instance, we talked about, I mentioned technology and Web3. That's me trying to figure out how are these going to connect, and then build aspects of my business, or even it might be a different business that I build, that could still have ties to the music industry, maybe, or it might just be like a separate Web3 project that I'm building. In that aspect, I am still, finding my way in that field. So I I know my strengths, which is marketing, when I can always take that with me in whatever field I want to go,
Mhm.
because a lot of things will change, in the future in technology, but there's always going to be some sort of way to market your product to people. And me just knowing human psychology and how that works, that's going to benefit me in whatever path that God has me on, or that He's called me to. So I'd say I'm very interested still in Web3 and how that's going to play out. So NFTs, even if it's a different sort of music streaming service where Everybody pays their $10 a month for Spotify or whatever. But what if there was a different sort of streaming service where the fans could have some equity in some of the songs, or a model like that? I think that's very interesting. I think it's very possible with Web3 technology. So me even working on stuff like that, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'm definitely putting my hand in some of those different arenas, and um, I'll see how that stretches my brain and challenges me and gets me to think in different ways.
Yeah, speaking of NFTs and I guess tokens, how have you how are you looking at, and you mentioned it already, as far as how potential ways to do that? Because I know I've been kind of reading up on it, recently, and I'm like, and I was trying to get my arms wrapped around like the NFTs. I kind of pretty much understand it now, but I mean, for those that are watching right now, can you explain a little bit about that in tokens?
Yeah, so I'll start with the NFTs. NFT just stands for non fungible token. So it is a type of token. But all that means is that it's can't be copied. So if you make or if you have a Bitcoin, one Bitcoin is exchangeable for one Bitcoin. Like they're the same,
Mhm.
whether you have Bitcoin number 10 million or whatever, it can be the same. It can be exchanged for one Bitcoin. An NFT, if you have a non fungible token, it just means that that is the only one of its kind. So you can have 1,000 NFTs in a collection. Like it might be show tickets. Okay. So somebody's selling show tickets, like to go to a concert, as an NFT. And you can have ticket number 500, and that still gets you into the same show for the same price. But later, let's say that this becomes like a historic show and it's very memorable, and it's like a collector's item now. And maybe they throw in some extra benefits for whoever owns this NFT. Now, copy number 500 can go for a different price than copy number 478. So that's that difference with NFTs versus other tokens that are fungible. Where this would come into play with music, it might be that artists can have their song royalties sold through NFTs. So instead of you just listening to your favorite artists on streaming services, maybe you can buy their NFT and you now own some of those streaming royalties for some of your favorite songs. Maybe it's a indie artist that you bought an NFT from, and their NFT was maybe not so expensive whenever you bought it, but then they are really good. As I was saying before, if the music is really good, it just helps market itself. And then that NFT maybe is valuable down the line. It's a collector's item now. So there's a lot of things that can happen with these NFTs and tokens. A token is more so like we've talked about a fungible token. I mentioned Bitcoin,
Mhm.
but this could even be that artists have their own tokens too. So not just their own NFTs. Maybe it'll be, let's take Fred Hammond, for example. Let's say Fred Hammond has Fred coin or something like that. And he uses that, excuse me, as the exclusive currency of everything that he's doing with his music career. So it might be he actually sells show tickets in Fred coin, or maybe you can do meet and greets with him if you own some of his coin, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just extra benefits, extra fan. It's like a hyper version of a fan club. So I'm excited to
That's
see
pretty cool.
what that technology can do. Like I think we're still early, so people kind of don't get it yet, or maybe
Yeah.
they're confused about it. But whenever it does come around, just like the internet, like it took people a second,
Yeah.
um, but when it does come around, it'll be really cool. And people will be able to connect with their favorite entertainers and influencers and celebrities and sports players on a different level than we do even now.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that is now your ownership comes back to you, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
you own it, so you profit from that, or you manage it, or you can do it however you want to do it, as opposed to in the past where you pretty much didn't own anything.
Yep.
The record company owned everything, and they just paid you, pennies on what you were really worth. So that's actually really fascinating. I'm looking forward to, and I guess I need to study up on that too, because I think that's a cool paradigm shift from what musicians and artists have kind of been dealt with in the past. So
Yeah.
that's pretty fascinating. So as we get ready to close, I wanted to talk a little bit about faith. One of the things about God Dreamers that I wanted to really highlight is, people, your journey in terms of how God is kind of taking you from where you have been to where you are today, and then to where he plans on having you in the future. So, what has that journey been like for you overall, as a musician, producer, entrepreneur, husband, father, and so forth?
Yeah. So I guess in line with everything we've been talking about today, I had to come to a decision in, I think it might have been 2015 or 2016. I grew up in a Christian home, and my parents definitely no, they split whenever I was 5, but they individually still raised us in Christian homes, and I've grown up with it, but I had to learn what that really meant for me as I got older. So as I was running the business and starting it, I kind of was having one foot in the world, one foot, in God's kingdom. And eventually you're going to have to choose. Like Jesus says, you can't serve two masters. Either you're going to love the one, hate the other. Like that's just how it's going to be. So, one day I was doing some marketing. I was doing a lot of marketing on Twitter back then. I don't do as much now, but I was trying to decide, God, do you want me to promote all types of music, or uh, do you want me to have some more godly standards on this music? Because I'd seen Christians in the music world, but if you heard some of the music, it really didn't sound too Christian. And at the award shows, they thank God on the stage, but then listen to some of the music, and it's just like, wait a second,
Yeah.
how are you thanking God right now? And your song didn't sound anything like thanking God. Like I'm glad you're thanking God, but just something's not adding up. So I was having a talk with God. And I was like, God, if you don't want me to do so and so type of music, you don't want me to promote that, or make that, just show me. And within like 5-10 minutes, all of my Twitter marketing just like shut down, and it was having problems.
What?
And I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty clear.
Got a direct answer right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So ever since then, we don't promote explicit content. Um, we have we still we promote all different genres. I'll be clear about that, because a genre is not nothing bad in and of itself.
Yeah.
But to certain types of content, no, we don't do. We're probably one of the only large independent music promoters. We might be the largest online, period. But other than that, definitely one of the largest that doesn't do any explicit content. So we're trying to be God's ambassadors in the space, representatives. By one, you have to converse with people who don't know God, so you got to be in a position to influence somebody. So that's why we still do all the genres of music. But then when they come to us, hey, we still have a standard of, here's the type of things that we can put our stamp of approval on and promote to other people, because we can't put a bad message out to other people. So that's been my journey in this space of how God's been using us, and I'm still even trying to find ways to be more intentional with that. How do we get into more conversations with people? I'm starting to find that people are a lot more comfortable talking to you in person. Like you can do a lot online, don't get me wrong, but whenever they finally like see you in person, because I was just at an event, I was at Holy Smoke Fest. But like when they see you in person, I did some other talks with some of the other music guys in town.
Mhm.
Uh, they you're now in a great position to have good conversations with people, show them that you care, and then um, it's just going to be natural. About what God's done for you. It's just gonna come out in a conversation. So that's been that's been my journey in the music industry and marketing and conversing with people about faith and how where God has uniquely placed me that I can make an impact.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you're right though. I mean, the music industry in general is really not conducive to God's principles, and like you said, a lot of artists will thank God in their these award shows, and then you go back and listen, it's like, whoa,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of selective. Well, it's not just the music industry these days, but
yeah,
selective outrage about, oh, this one thing happened, we're so upset. But then you go listen to the music, like, wait, what? You're upset about this thing over here, and you're talking about all these others. So, well, I have a podcast too, and um, we talk about some of that on the podcast. We talk about a lot of marketing stuff, but we also talk about current events some, and just another way that we can be an influence.
that's awesome, man. So, how can one find you? How can they find out about your company, about you, and so forth?
Yeah, it's all in one place. Just go to omarimc.com, OMARIMC.com, or just search Omari on Google. We should pop up. I think Omari Hardwick might be outranking us still, but we're definitely number 2 on there. We might be number 1. We'll see if we beat them
Neck,
yet.
neck and neck, right?
Yeah, we're neck and neck.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us today, man. I really enjoyed what you shared, and I'm really fascinated. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about, see, some of the things that you're doing, with the NFTs and tokens and so forth, and how that can affect uh, the music industry, or just, I guess, the creative industry in general. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we can have a follow up discussion a few months down the road when some things kind of take place, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a year or two before
Yeah.
people start to warm up to it. But the people who are building all the stuff right now, this is what they're building. So you guys will be early, and you and anybody listening to this, you guys will be early in it.
Oh man, trendsetters here.
Yes, absolutely. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid of the change.
I hear you, man. But anyway, man, folks, if you want to know more about, Omari, you already mentioned where you can find him. If you want to know more about God Dreamers, you can check us out at goddreamers.com. If you like what we're doing, like us, subscribe, share with your friends and family. We want to continue to bring great content to you guys. So if you have anyone that you know that loves what they're doing, they're passionate, they found their purpose and making a difference, feel free to reach out to me and let me know, and we'll come out to you and share your story. So until next time, you all take care and God bless.